I never expected a simple camping trip to become the most unforgettable night of my life. That night, something happened between my son's friend and me. Something I never could have imagined. What followed was so unexpected. It turned my whole world upside down. Let me take you back to where it began. The sun had barely risen over the horizon when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, breaking the stillness of the morning. It was Daniel, my son, calling from his college dorm. His voice crackled through the speaker, full of excitement, as he told me about their upcoming camping trip. "Dad, you've got to come this time," he insisted, leaving little room for refusal. "It's not just me, it's Noah too and some of the guys. We'd love to have you there." I hesitated, gripping the counter. Camping had never been my thing. I preferred the comfort of home, where life was predictable and safe. But Daniel's enthusiasm was contagious, and I couldn't deny how much I missed him. He'd grown up so quickly, trading family dinners for late-night study sessions and weekends with friends like Noah. Noah. Just hearing his name stirred something in me, something I quickly pushed aside. He'd been Daniel's best friend since high school, practically living at our place back then. There had always been something magnetic about him, though I could never explain why. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, confident without arrogance, warm without being overly familiar. Or maybe it was the way his dark eyes seemed to hold secrets only he knew. "All right," I finally said, giving in. "I'll come, but don't expect me to rough it like you kids do." Daniel laughed, clearly thrilled. "Don't worry, Dad. Bring all the fancy gear you want. Just promise you won't back out." And so, a week later, I found myself packing a duffel bag with clothes, snacks, and an absurdly expensive sleeping pad I'd bought online. As I zipped it shut, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Older than I remembered. Lines etched from years of routine and responsibility. For a moment, I wondered why I was doing this. But then I reminded myself, this wasn't about me. It was about Daniel. About reconnecting before life pulled him further away. When we arrived at the campsite, the air smelled of pine and damp earth, crisp and invigorating. The others were already setting up tents, their laughter echoing through the trees. Noah spotted us first. He waved, jogging over to help unload the car, his movements fluid and easy. Up close, I noticed how much he'd changed: broader shoulders, a sharper jawline, and a new, quiet confidence. "You didn't have to bring so much, Mr. Harper," he teased, lifting a bag with ease. "We're supposed to rough it out here." "I'm not exactly the roughing it type," I replied lightly, trying to ignore the quickened beat of my pulse when our hands brushed as he passed me a cooler. The rest of the day blurred together. Tents going up, firewood gathered, stories shared around the crackling fire. Noah sat across from me, his gaze meeting mine every so often. Each time, I felt a jolt I couldn't explain. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination. But the feeling lingered. When night fell and the temperature dropped, the group decided to turn in early. Daniel disappeared into his tent with the others, leaving me alone with Noah by the fading fire. Neither of us spoke at first, the silence stretching between us like a drawn bowstring. Then he broke it, his voice soft, hesitant. "You know, Mr. Harper, I've always admired you," he said, staring into the flames. "You've always been so supportive of Daniel, and of me. Not every parent would be that way." His words caught me off guard, stirring something I wasn't ready to face. "It's nothing special," I muttered. "Just what any parent should do." But he shook his head. "No, it is special. Most people wouldn't understand. They judge without knowing. But you've always accepted us for who we are." There was something in his tone, an intensity of vulnerability, that made my chest tighten. I wanted to say something to break the moment, but the words never came. The fire crackled softly, its orange glow casting shifting shadows across the clearing. The others had been asleep for hours. Noah lingered, claiming he wasn't tired. Neither was I. We sat on opposite sides of the fire, the space between us wide enough to feel safe, yet close enough for every small movement of his to catch my eye. He leaned back on his hands, gazing up at the stars, his profile faintly lit by the fading glow. There was something about the way he looked under the open sky, free, unguarded, that made my chest tighten again. "You ever think about how small we are?" he asked suddenly, his voice quiet, thoughtful. I followed his gaze upward to the endless expanse. "All the time," I admitted. "It's humbling, knowing how much we'll never understand." He nodded slowly, still staring at the stars. "Yeah, makes you wonder if all the things we stress about really matter. Relationships, expectations." His words were heavy with meaning. "It all feels kind of pointless when you look at it like this." I wanted to respond, offer something wise, comforting, philosophical, but nothing came. Instead, I found myself simply watching him. The sharp line of his jaw, the way his lips parted slightly as he exhaled. He seemed lost in thought, somewhere far away, even though he was sitting right beside me. After a moment, he turned to face me, his expression unreadable. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" The question caught me off guard. I frowned, shifting in my seat. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the ground. "Like everything you've done, every decision you've made, it's not really yours. You're just going through the motions because that's what people expect." I didn't know how to answer. His words struck a chord deep inside me, stirring emotions I'd buried years ago. Wasn't that exactly how I'd felt for so long? Trapped in routines, bound to obligations and roles I hadn't truly chosen, but couldn't escape. Hearing him say it aloud made the truth feel raw, exposed. "I think everyone feels that way sometimes," I finally said, my voice quieter than I intended. "But maybe it's not too late to change things." Noah's eyes met mine, and for a moment, the world around us disappeared. The forest, the fire, the distant chirp of crickets, all of it faded away, leaving just the two of us suspended in that fragile space between honesty and something else I couldn't quite name. "Do you believe that?" he asked, almost challenging me. "That it's not too late?" I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came, because the truth was, I didn't know. I wanted to believe it. I desperately wanted to, but the weight of my own choices pressed heavy on my chest. Before I could respond, Noah stood abruptly, brushing dirt from his jeans. "I should probably turn in," he said, avoiding my gaze. "Big day tomorrow." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, good call. We'll need the energy." But as he walked toward his tent, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between us. Something unspoken, something dangerous. Maybe that night nothing had happened, but I could feel it in my bones. Something was coming, and I was right. The next morning broke bright and clear, the kind of day that made you forget your worries, at least for a while. We gathered around the fire pit for breakfast, laughter mixing with the smell of coffee and sizzling food. Noah seemed different, quieter, more distant, but whenever our eyes met, there was a flicker there. Something I couldn't name, but it sent a jolt straight through me. Daniel noticed too. "You okay, man?" he asked, nudging Noah with a grin. "You seem distracted." Noah shrugged, forcing a smile. "Just tired. Didn't sleep great." I quickly looked away, pretending to focus on stirring the kufa pot. But my mind was racing. Had last night stayed with him the way it stayed with me? After breakfast, we set off on a hike to a nearby lake. The trail wound through dense woods, sunlight spilling through the canopy in golden beams. Noah walked ahead, his strides long and easy, while I lagged behind, lost in thought. At one point, he stopped to wait for me, leaning against a tree. "You coming or what?" he teased, one eyebrow raised. I chuckled. "Trying to keep up with you kids is harder than it looks." He smirked, but there was a softer look in his eyes now. "You're doing fine," he said, his voice low, just for me. "Better than most." The compliment threw me off balance. I stumbled over a root, nearly losing my footing. Noah's hand shot out, steadying me with a firm grip on my arm. His touch lingered, just long enough to send a shiver down my spine. "Careful," he murmured, his gaze locking onto mine. "Don't want you getting hurt." The words carried more than one meaning, and we both knew it. I pulled away, muttering a quick thanks, before hurrying to catch up with the others. By the time we reached the lake, the tension between us was unbearable. The water shimmered under the midday sun, serene and inviting. The others dove in laughing, while I stayed on shore, claiming I wanted to rest. Noah joined me after a while, dripping wet, breathless from swimming. "You sure you don't want to come in?" he asked, shaking water from his hair. Droplets clung to his skin, catching the sunlight. "Nah, I'm good," I said lightly. "I'll leave the swimming to you youngsters." He laughed, settling beside me. "Youngsters, huh? You make it sound like you're ancient." "Feels that way sometimes," I muttered. His expression softened. "You're not old, Mr. Harper," he said quietly. "Not to me." The depth in his voice made my pulse quicken. I turned to face him, searching his eyes for something, anything, that would explain what he meant. "Noah," I started. "I know," he interrupted quickly, his cheeks flushing. "I shouldn't have said that. Forget it." But I couldn't forget it. The words echoed in my head as the laughter from the lake faded into the background. Whatever this was between us, it wasn't going away. The afternoon wore on, and when the others decided to explore the woods, Noah and I stayed behind. We sat on a fallen log overlooking the lake, the silence between us thick with unspoken things. The scent of pine and sun-warmed earth mingled with the faint trace of his cologne. Our shoulders brushed now and then, and each time, it sent an involuntary spark through me. After a long pause, Noah finally spoke, his tone deliberate. "So, what happens now?" I turned toward him, my heart pounding. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, picking at a strip of bark on the log. "I mean, whatever this is, we can't keep pretending like nothing's happening." His words hit me like a punch to the chest, my breath catching. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, though the lie tasted bitter. "Yes, you do," he replied, firmer now. "You feel it too. Don't pretend you don't." My pulse quickened. I glanced around, half expecting someone to appear, but we were alone. Just the rustle of leaves and distant birdsong. Still, I couldn't bring myself to admit the truth. "Not yet." "It doesn't matter what I feel," I said finally, my voice low. "You're Daniel's friend. I'm his dad. This whatever it is, it's not right." "Wrong according to who?" Noah's expression tightened with frustration. "Society? Some rule book we didn't write? Because I don't care about that. All I care about is how I feel, and how you feel." His honesty left me exposed, raw. I wanted to tell him he was young, reckless, that he didn't understand. But deep down I knew he did. This wasn't a passing crush or a moment of confusion. It was real, powerful, and the more I tried to bury it, the stronger it grew. "I don't want to hurt Daniel," I murmured, more to myself than to him. "He trusts us." "He won't find out," Noah said quickly, almost desperate. "Not unless we tell him. And we don't have to if we're careful." "Careful?" I let out a hollow laugh. "You think we can hide something like this forever?" "No," he admitted, his gaze dropping. "But we can try, at least for now, until we figure out what this is, or if it's even worth it." His words lingered in the air. Worth it. Could it be? Everything in me screamed that it couldn't be, that I should walk away. But some quiet, selfish part of me whispered that maybe, just maybe, it was worth holding on to. Noah's hand brushed mine, his voice barely above the sound of the wind. "I know you feel it too. Don't fight it anymore." I froze. My mind told me to push him away, to end this before it went any further. But my body stayed still, caught in the gravity of the moment. When we finally leaned into each other, it wasn't reckless. It was slow, deliberate, a silent admission of what we'd both been avoiding. The closeness was dizzying, our foreheads touching briefly before we pulled back, breathing unsteadily. "This changes everything," I whispered. "I know," he said simply, his eyes searching mine. "But I don't regret it." Neither did I, and that terrified me. The rest of the day passed in a blur. We rejoined the group, laughing and talking as if nothing had happened. But each time Noah's knee brushed mine, or our eyes met across the fire, I felt the weight of our secret pressing down. It was intoxicating and suffocating. That night, as the others settled into their tents, Noah lingered outside mine. "Can we talk?" he asked softly, his silhouette lit by moonlight. I hesitated, torn between caution and the pull I couldn't fight. But in the end, I nodded, stepping aside. Inside, the space was small, the air warmer than outside. We sat close, knees almost touching, our words low and careful. It wasn't about declarations or promises. It was about the quiet, unspoken truth that neither of us could unfeel what had happened. By the time we stepped back out into the cool night, the first hints of dawn were touching the horizon. Noah's voice was steady, but his eyes gave him away. "Whatever happens next, I'm not walking away." And neither was I, even though I knew I should. The next morning, everything felt different. We moved through breakfast and casual chatter with the group, but every glance, every subtle touch, carried a charge. The world felt smaller, like it had narrowed to just us. By mid-morning, the others decided to hike deeper into the woods. Noah stayed behind, saying he wanted to organize the campsite. I offered to help. When their voices faded into the distance, the silence between us grew heavy. We worked side by side, folding tarps, rearranging gear, but every movement felt deliberate. Every glance a message neither of us dared speak aloud. At one point, Noah reached past me for a bag, his arm brushing mine. The contact was brief, but it lingered in my mind. "You're playing with fire," I murmured without looking at him. "Maybe," he said, his voice low. Then, after a beat, "But isn't that half the fun?" The rest of the day slipped by in a haze. When the others returned, we blended right in, our secret hidden in plain sight. But each shared smile, each moment our shoulders touched by the fire, reminded me. There was no going back now. Later, when most of the group had gone to bed, Noah caught my eye from across the fire. "Can we talk?" he asked again. I followed him into the shadows of the trees, away from the light and the noise. The forest felt alive, every sound amplified in the stillness. "What is it?" I asked quietly. He hesitated, his voice steady but edged with something unspoken. "I've been thinking about us, and about what happens next." My chest tightened at his words. "There is no us, Noah. You know that. But there could be," he insisted, his voice almost pleading. "If we wanted it to be." I shook my head, frustration bubbling to the surface. "It's not that simple. Your best friend is my son. Do you have any idea what this would do to him? To everyone?" "I know," he said quickly, his voice cracking just slightly. "I know it's complicated, but pretending this doesn't exist. It's killing me, and I think it's killing you too." His words struck something deep inside me, feelings I'd been forcing myself to bury. Because he was right. Pretending was exhausting, suffocating, but giving in, letting myself fully embrace whatever this was, that felt dangerous in a way I couldn't even explain. "I don't know what you want me to say," I admitted, my voice thick with emotion. "This isn't something we can fix overnight. It's not something we might ever be able to fix." Noah stepped closer, his hand finding mine. "Then let's not try to fix it," he said softly. "Let's just be, for now, whatever that means." His touch grounded me, anchoring me to the present moment. And for the first time in days, I let myself breathe, to truly consider the possibility of letting go, even if only for a little while. "Okay," I whispered finally, my voice barely audible. "For now." The night stretched on. The forest hummed with crickets, and somewhere in the distance a twig snapped. We stayed out there, talking quietly under the stars. For once, we weren't hiding. We weren't pretending. We were simply existing. What happened next changed everything. We didn't sleep. The night was alive. The gentle lapping of water against the shore, the distant hoot of an owl, the soft rustle of leaves in the cool breeze. The campfire had burned down to embers, casting a faint orange glow over the clearing. Everyone else had retreated to their tents, leaving Noah and me alone under the vast canopy of stars. We'd been careful all day, maintaining a facade of normalcy around the others. But now, with the world reduced to just the two of us, every glance, every accidental brush of our hands sent sparks racing through me. I told myself to pull back, to stop this from going any further. But the pull toward him was magnetic. "You cold?" Noah asked softly, his voice barely above the hum of crickets. Before I could answer, he draped a blanket over my shoulders. His fingers lingered on my arm, warm and steady, sending a jolt through me I couldn't ignore. "I'm fine," I murmured, though my voice betrayed the storm inside me. "Just thinking about what?" He pressed, his tone teasing, but beneath it was something deeper. I hesitated, then said quietly, "This place, how different it feels at night." He nodded, his gaze fixed on the lake shimmering in the moonlight. "It's beautiful," he said after a moment. Then, almost under his breath, "But not as beautiful as you." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I turned toward him, half expecting a smirk. But his expression was serious, his eyes full of longing. "Noah," I started, my voice trembling. "We can't keep doing this. It's dangerous." "I know," he said quickly, cutting me off. "But I can't stop. Not when I'm this close to you." He stepped closer, his hand finding mine. His touch was electric. My mind screamed at me to pull away, but my body leaned into him instead. "We shouldn't," I whispered, though it sounded weak even to me. "Why not?" he countered, his voice low. "No one's here. No one has to know." His words echoed in my head, tempting me. For a moment, I let myself imagine it, what it would be like to give in completely, to let go of the guilt, the fear, the doubt, and just be here with him. Before I could stop it, he closed the space between us and kissed me. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't cautious. It was urgent, like he'd been holding it back for far too long. The world fell away. There was no past, no future, only the pull between us. When we finally broke apart, our foreheads stayed pressed together. "This is insane," I breathed. "We can't." "Yes, we can," he murmured, his lips brushing mine. "Just for tonight. Just let yourself feel." And something in me gave way. Kissed him again, harder this time. Every bit of emotion I'd been holding back spilled into that moment. His hands moved over me with a reverence that left me dizzy. The night air was cool, but his warmth surrounded me, grounding me, drawing me in. We stayed close like that for a long time, connected, silent, and completely present in a way I hadn't felt in years. Whatever passed between us that night, it was more than attraction. It was something unspoken, something neither of us dared name. When we finally lay back, side by side beneath the stars, reality crept in. The lake shimmered in the distance, peaceful and still, a sharp contrast to the chaos inside me. "What happens now?" Noah asked softly. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling. "I don't know, but whatever it is, we'll figure it out." He smiled faintly, tracing patterns along my chest. "Promise, promise," I said, pulling him closer, because some connections are too deep to ignore. As dawn painted the horizon in pink and gold, I let myself believe, just for a little while, that maybe, somehow, we could make this work. Because in that moment, with him in my arms, anything felt possible. Everything had changed. It was messy, confusing, unexpected, but it was real. And now, I'm asking you, what do you think? Was I wrong? Was this worth the risk? Tell me in the comments. I really want to know.